Wrong phrase. A reliability of moral standards depends on the adequacy of the reasons that support or justify them. For the most part, fashion standards are set by clothing designers, merchandisers and consumers, grammatical standards by grammarians and students of language, technical standards by practitioners and experts in the field. 1. Legislators make laws, boards of directors make organizational policy, and licensing boards establish standards for professionals. 2. In those cases, it is some authoritative body who ultimately validates the standards and thus can change them as it wishes. 3. By contrast, moral standards are not made by such bodies, although they are often supported or rejected by them. 4. More precisely, the validity of moral standards depends not on authoritative command but rather on the quality of the arguments or the reasoning that supports them. 5. Thus, it is important to prove that moral standards include all social conventions. And these types of claims are based on our historical and contemporary effort to answer that key question of ethics: how should we ensure that both individual and collective well-being is enhanced by relating to each other? Fill out a symbol is often considered as abstract way for representing an object. A designer can use various degrees of abstraction to take the symbol further away from a realistic representation of the actual object yet make it more representative at the same time. The ability to visually abstract enables a designer to focus on and convey a succinct message that successfully creates associations to the product. Thus, a designer can focus on the value which a product will bring consumers, not on its physical quality. That's why it is naturally hard to convey the value. The more abstract the image, however, the more tenuous the link becomes until it reaches the point when it is lost altogether. Balance is essential since the image should be interesting yet simple enough to be transmitted. Turn and different meaning 1. A week before the championship basketball game, Jenna developed a sensation of discomfort in her stomach. She wasn't queasy, hungry, or overfull. She didn't know exactly what was causing the sour feeling. After practice, she limped off the court, one hand on her stomach, and mentioned the problem to her coach, Alice. The coach said it was probably just a case of pre-game butterflies. Jenna thought her assessment could not possibly be accurate. Her team was undefeated and Jenna herself was considered their most valuable player. What was there to be nervous about? C. Later that day, Jenna visited the school nurse, Ms. Williams. After a quick examination, she concluded that there was nothing physically wrong with her. Ms. Williams looked at Jenna thoughtfully and asked, "Is something causing you stress?" Sometimes emotional stress can influence your physical health. Jenna was convinced that he was not under any stress, and replied, "Nope, everything's just fine with me. Playing basketball gives me a huge sense of pride and feeling of accomplishment." D. Ms. Williams suggested that, she try to relax and not overexert herself, and to report back if her symptoms persisted. Jenna said that she would, and then returned to class. However, she didn't really follow her advice. She continued training and practicing as hard as ever. She was determined to ignore her stomachache in the hope that it would slip away and not interfere with the big game. On the morning before the game, however, Jenna's stomach was tied in a knot. The agitated sensation was so severe that she didn't want to eat all day. B. Needless to say, by the evening, when her team was gathering for its pep talk, she was hungry and grumpy. When she hit the court, though, she felt a little better. The sound of the crowd and the hum boom boom of the dribbling were soothing. Jenna quickly forgot about her stomach and played as well as she could manage. Her team won the trophy that night, and during the celebrations afterward, she realized she'd completely forgotten about her pain. It was gone. "It looks as though your stomachache's gone," remarked the coach. Jenna nodded and smiled. "I think it was just a few butterflies." A, B, D, E. Jenna, C. Ms. Williams. According to many philosophers, there is a purely logical reason why science will never be able to explain everything. For in order to explain something, whatever it is, we need to invoke something else. But what explains the second thing? To illustrate, recall that Newton explained a diverse range of phenomena using his law of gravity. But what explains the law of gravity itself? If someone asks why all bodies exert a gravitational attraction on each other, what should we tell them? Newton had no answer to this question. In Newtonian science, the law of gravity was a fundamental principle. It explained other things, but could not itself be explained. The moral generalizes. However much the science of the future can explain, the explanations it gives will have to make use of certain fundamental laws and principles. Since nothing can explain itself, it follows that at least some of these laws and principles will themselves remain unexplained. Adam Smith pointed out that specialization, where each of us focuses on one specific skill, leads to a general improvement of everybody's well-being. The idea is simple and powerful. By specializing in just one activity such as food raising, clothing production, or home construction, each worker gains 1. Mastery over the particular activity. Specialization makes sense, however, only if the specialist can subsequently 2. Trade his or her output with the output of specialists in other lines of activity. It would make no sense to produce more food than a household needs unless there is a market outlet to exchange that 3. Excess food for clothing, shelter, and so forth. At the same time, without the ability to buy food on the market, it would not be possible to be a specialist home builder or clothing maker, since it would be 4. Necessary to farm for one's own survival. Thus Smith realized that the division of labor is 5. Limited by the extent of the market, whereas the extent of the market is determined by the degree of specialization.